Okay. Hi, we're back again. We have talked a little bit previously about the Venezuela boat strikes, and in true fashion, the Washington Post did a terrible hit piece on Pete Hegseth that said that they were basically accusing him of war crimes. War crimes. What they were saying is that they had hit a boat with a narc running boat in Venezuela and, well, in the water, and that there were survivors. It did not kill everyone on the boat. And so Pete Hegseth, according to the Washington Post article, based on anonymous sources, which always should tell you something, he said, kill them all, kill all of them, whatever. And so they hit the boat again. Now, the Washington Post ran with this story, and true to fashion, a bunch of Democrats and Republicans jumped on the bandwagon of get rid of Pete Hegseth. Now, if you remember, he was not confirmed. I believe we can check this and correct ourselves later, but I believe J.D. Vance had to break a tie for his confirmation. I'm not 100% sure, but
that sounds familiar.
I believe he had a difficult time being confirmed. And so whenever that happens, you have a bunch of rhinos who decide, I didn't vote for him. And look, he's a war criminal, which of course was a totally bogus story. And you really want to say to these members of Congress, do you really believe the Washington Post is going to do a fair story on Pete Hegseth or on President Trump or on any Republican? I really don't understand why they just jump on the bandwagon, because actually I do know they're looking for an excuse. They were probably the anonymous source that the Washington Post used to do the story in the first place. I would not be at all surprised if that was the case. But in any rate, the narrative regarding Secretary of War Pete Hegseth ordering the killing of survivors in a boat attack on the Caribbean has officially been debunked by a highly unlikely source. In fact, so highly unlikely, we had to check the story twice to make sure it was true. The source revealed the full story behind the attack. And the source of this debunking is none other than the New York Times. I'm telling you, when the New York Times is behind debunking a trash story on somebody in Trump administration by the Washington Post, I don't know if the person who debunked the story at the New York Times, have they been fired yet?
Well, that's because, if memory serves, the Washington Post trashed a New York Times story within the last month.
Oh, do you remember what?
No, I don't. Those two usually are very harmonious, working together. But no, now there's a little split.
Well, I can see that now. It's a tit for tat. It's just, but I can tell. I'm telling you what, and this is completely my opinion. I'm just from all the stuff I see. First, you have this seditious six, and you have Senator Kelly, whom Pete Hegseth dressed down not long ago about his uniform being wrong, and also said that he was going to call him up just to have him court-martialed over this sedition. Now you have Senator Kelly going out there saying things like, President Trump is threatening to kill me. No, President Trump said that sedition and treason are punishable by death.
Right.
If you aren't guilty of those things, you have nothing to worry about. So what are you worried about, Senator Kelly? It makes no sense, right? Does that make
right? One of the other six might turn him in.
One of the other six, yes, the Senator Slotkin, who is interesting how she identifies herself as working for the CIA in the present tense. She is a.
I didn't hear that. That's
yes,
nice.
She does. She says, I'm in the CIA. She didn't say I was, which she supposedly was, and now she isn't. but she's apparently still cooperating with the.
She's very proud of her service.
Yes, but she's also probably in my uh, still working with the CIA. That's my guess. Talking about how the National Guard is going to be killing civilians. And Pete Hegseth is, rogue and all of this. This is what they're doing. This is called a coup. They're trying to orchestrate a coup. They're trying to gin up enough panic of ours out there about what's going on. They're trying to get the military people to begin to question their orders, because what they said is, you don't have to follow illegal orders. Well, that's right. But what illegal orders are they being asked to follow? Nobody seems to be able to answer that question. So they have these people who are out there spreading all these lies, twisting words, saying things like President Trump is threatening to kill me, and Pete Hegseth is threatening to kill me, and this and that and the other, and get all this going. And now they've already started rumors about Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and they're attacking them over there, and they're attacking Pete Hegseth. And every single time the President Trump turns around, they ask him, do you still have faith in Secretary Hegseth? Do you still have faith in Marco Rubio? Do you still have faith? Do you still stand behind?
Trump should get behind that, and whoever he's talking to, ask them if they still have faith in their publisher or their colleague at the.
That's a good idea. Do you still have faith?
Just and hit them with it at least once in every press conference.
And they know human nature. They know that when you ask that question, it does plant a seed of doubt, if not in President Trump's mind, in the public's mind.
Right.
Why would he not have faith in Kash Patel? Why? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I like, so this is the game they're playing, and they're doing all. Plus, they really want the strikes on the ships to stop, because they want the drug running to continue.
Right.
And that seems very obvious to me.
And the CIA, unfortunately, has been into that for at least a decade.
Oh, yeah, at least. How old am I? It seems like it started way back when. But they did have a cabinet meeting. This was the last cabinet meeting that they're going to have of 2025. And James Rosen, who may have asked the question in order to give them an opportunity to clarify things, asked the question of the president, and Pete Hegseth is sitting right next to him, about this possible, what they were saying is that they hit the boat, and the boat had 2 survivors, and so they hit it again so they could kill the survivors. That's not what happened. And we're going to hear Pete Hegseth from his own mouth answer the question as to what really happened. And so just right there.
Much for taking questions with your assembled cabinet. I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike? And Mr. Secretary, I want to clarify something you had said in an interview back in September, I believe on Fox News. You said that you would watch that strike live on television. In real time, did you know that there were survivors after the initial strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives, 25,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things like cocaine and other things, but fentanyl right now is the leader of the pack, to kill our entire nation. Because a little speck on the head of a pin can kill somebody. It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample, and they died. They died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten.
That's why I wanted to. Well, I apologize. We meant to not show this commercial.
Me, it was an attack. It wasn't 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with two people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing when you see a boat going along, and, you know, a lot of the press would like to say they're not, you see the boat, they're not maybe drugs. You see these boats. First of all, who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions and loaded up with lots of white containers? They're bags of things. No, they've done an amazing job, and Peter's done an amazing job. Pete, you could probably better answer the question.
No, you're spot on, sir. I think you got to start with the baseline, which Marco laid out, everybody's laid out. We've got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations. Now, a number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, that make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on 4-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand.
You want to remove it from there? No. Yeah. Okay. So I think he gave a very reasonable explanation of the whole thing. And
well, let me say something. So should the United States respond with lethal kinetic force, as Secretary Hegseth said, when these groups are sending in poison to the United States? This isn't like an accident. This isn't like a question of whether it's poisonous or not. It kills people. It kills usually younger people. And with just less than an amount on your little fingernail, it kills them. And I consider that an act of war, actually. And if China caught us doing the same thing, do you think they would respond? You're darn sure they would respond. They would take on an aircraft carrier if they could get to it. They'd kill an equal number. They'd rationalize that we're going to kill an equal number of Americans that they've killed. And so of course we have to do it. Not to do it would be un-American. I mean,
And I think the press just wastes time. Look at all the time that they had to spend on answering the stupid question that came from anonymous sources that had no basis in fact. They bring up these questions just to distract people. And now everybody's is distracted by what happened or what they think happened or what the press said happened.
yeah, but it didn't turn out well for them, for the questioner or the question. But both the president and the secretary made perfectly rational responses. The secretary responded with all of the information that he legally could do without violating security restrictions.
Yeah, well, right, but they shouldn't have even had to answer the question in the first place.
But it prevented other stupid questions from being asked.
maybe it did. I don't know about that, but it's just so maddening to me. I mean, there are a lot of great questions that they could have asked. There are a lot of
Sure, the whole Russia Ukraine war thing is really in an interesting phase right now, where Russia's claiming they're making massive taking new Ukrainian land and all that, but all they're doing is trying to gin up their bargaining position for when this Trump steps in and stops the thing.
Well, yes, and Ukraine is saying Russia didn't take over all this land, and Russia is saying they did, and now the United States has stopped sharing intelligence about the Ukraine situation with Germany.
Well, Germany is a little bit on the edge as far as being a buddy with Russia and a member of NATO. So,
Well, right, and so there's a lot of other things going on. I think Marco Rubio is meeting with Putin in the near future. I'm not exactly sure when that meeting is to take place, but there are a lot of other interesting things going on, and we just wanted to just be another news outlet to correct the record as far as Pete Hegseth is concerned. Was there something else you wanted to add?
no, I think that's
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm.
Bye.
No, you have to up here. And